You know how you could only use polling-based triggers in automation tools like Make, N8N, Zapier, or when using the Notion API yourself? Now, Notion launched Workspace webhooks, and this means that many events that happen in Notion Workspace are sent immediately to your webhook trigger that you can set up in Make, in N8N, in Zapier, Pipedream, or any other tool that you use to manage webhooks. So this changes the paradigm a bit from a polling-based trigger that checks for database changes, for example, every 1 minute, to instant triggers that happen at the workspace level and for many different events, not just database changes, but also page content changes, database schema changes, comments creation, page deletion, and many others that we are exploring in this video. So this means that with one single webhook, you can manage many different use cases that you have based on the type of event that actually takes place in the workspace. You can filter your routes to take actions only for those events that you care about to do different things. So in this video, we're looking at how to use Notion Workspace webhooks, how you can set them up in your integration profile within Notion, and how you can implement an actual use case in Make or N8N. The same exact principles apply if you use any other automation platform or webhook tool that is out there available for developers. So let's get into it. The first step is to go to notion.so/profile/integrations. And by the way, you can also check out my Notion profile with all my templates at notion.so/@Simo. You will find my public profile there. But now let's go back to the integrations tab that's relevant for this video. And to create a new integration, I can create a new integration right here. Then I will give it a name. And I will select the associated workspace. Next up, I will select internal or public. And chances are, if you're building for yourself, you want to select internal. Public is for public integrations, usually developed for app building purposes. You can upload a logo if you like, otherwise you can skip it. And the integration was successfully created. So now I can configure these settings. Here I get my internal integration secret. And then I can define the capabilities of this integration. I want it to read all the content and also comments because I want to track that kind of event. Workspace capabilities, transfer content between workspace users, and I want to read user info. So I'm going to save it. You can of course restrict access to this one. Just be aware that will then influence what kind of events you can subscribe to with your webhook. Next up, there is basic information. That's already done. And then webhooks. So if you want to subscribe to specific events across the entire workspace, that's where you can set that rule and you can create a subscription. A subscription is like you are listening to specific events that happen in your workspace and sending that data to your webhook URL that then receives that data and then pass it through the automation steps that you set for yourself. You can see here the available events. There are page events, database events, and comment events. I can uncheck this to unfollow those events. Otherwise, by default, all the events are followed. And if I expand the page events, the first page event is page content updated. Here, there is a tooltip, but it doesn't work, at least for me in Google Chrome here. So might be a bug or intentional. So for page events, we can look at page content updated. A page content is whatever text or callouts, images, link database views, whatever content block is on a page. Page created, that's self-explanatory. A page might be created in a parent page or in database. So be aware of that. Page deleted, page locked, page moved. Pages can be moved in Notion across databases or across pages. Page properties updated. This is for database pages because databases have properties and properties can be updated on each page. Page undeleted. This is where after deleting a page, you as a user go to the trash and restore that page. Pages are stored in the trash for 30 days in Notion. Page unlocked. You can lock and unlock a page from the 3-dot menu at the top right corner of any page in Notion, and there is a lock icon there. Then there are database events, and these ones are database content updated. This is when you add a page to a database, for example. Database created, that's where you create a new database on any parent page where the integration has access. Database deleted, database moved, because you can also move databases and not just pages. And then database schema updated. This means that any property in database has been updated, or a new property created, or a property deleted. So that's the schema, the structure of the database that has changed. And this event tells you just that. Database undeleted. Simply before, you can undelete database from the trash can. Then there are comment events, and you can subscribe to new comments, deleted comments, and updated comments. So in this case, I'm going to subscribe to all of these events. And in here, I need to insert the webhook URL. And that's the next step in our configuration. From here, we want to get a URL. So let's see how to do that in Make and then in N8N. How can we get a URL that receives the events from the Notion webhook trigger? Here I am in Make. I created a new scenario, and the trigger that I selected is the webhook trigger. That's available here. If you type webhooks, you will find it. It has this icon like so. And then I created a webhook, named it properly, just to make sure that I know what it is about in the future. Then I can copy address to clipboard, and then I'm going to save and go back to the Notion integration page. I'm going to paste it here. I will create a subscription. And next step is to verify the endpoint to make sure that I can receive the events. So I'm going to go here in Make again, right click, run this module only. There's already data in the queue. I don't care. I was just testing before making this video. So if I go here, then I will verify. And this has just sent a request to the webhook. So if everything goes to plan, we receive a secret token that we can paste to verify the webhook in Notion. Haven't received anything yet, so I'm going to resend the token. This sends another request to the webhook URL, and now we receive data. So I can see the verification token here. Make sure to not share this with anyone. Now I'm showing it in this video, and I'm going to delete this right after because it's just a test. So you want to copy this secret token here and paste it into Notion to verify the webhook. Ctrl+C to copy. I'm going to go back to the Notion integration page, and I will paste it here. Verify subscription. Okay. The subscription is currently active. I can pause it from here, from the integration page. I can delete the subscription, and I can also edit the events that I want to subscribe to. So now, anytime there is an event in a Notion page that I'm subscribed to, then that will be sent to the webhook URL, and it will trigger the Make scenario in this case. Now, let's look at how you can do the same exact thing using N8N. In N8N, I just created a new workflow, and I can add the first step. And one of the options for the first step is webhook. So in here, I will select on webhook call, and now I get a test URL and a production URL. In the method, we can select post. So you can see the test URL contains only this difference here. In the URL, there is, after the first slash, there is webhook-test. Whereas in the production URL, it's only webhook, like so. So when you're setting this up, you actually want to use the test URL, paste it into the Notion integration to get the verification token. And then only once you've concluded setting up your N8N workflow, can you switch the webhook in the Notion integration page. So be aware of this difference compared to Make or even Zapier, for example. Next up, I will make sure that my workspace level webhook integration has access to the pages or databases that I want to monitor. That's very important because the events sent are from the pages where the integration has access. If you do not add the integration to the pages that you want to monitor, you won't get any event. So here's my demo page. There are a few databases here and a few pages. So I'm going to go to the three-dot menu at the top right, then go to connections. Then I will find my webhook, which I named test workspace webhook. So here it is, and I will add it to this page. Now, because this page contains sub-pages and sub-databases, these have inherited that connection. So that means my connection has access to demo, so whatever I add in here, as well as all the databases nested within it. Be aware that if you have sub-pages with access restrictions, you might want to double check this. Now, in my Make scenario where I have the webhook, I'm going to run some tests and going to right click and then run this module only. There is already some data that was sent apparently, so just to use existing data and see what was sent. Nothing really. So let's go back to Notion. In my demo page, let's say I'm going to add some content here, test content, and let's go back to Make. I'm going to run it, and there might be some seconds of delay, and then we should receive the new event that happened on the page. And here it is. It's been about 20 seconds of delay since the event actually happened, and you can see here I get the bundle with the ID, timestamp of when the event happened, the workspace ID, workspace name, integration ID, the authors. So this is the person that actually made that change. What kind of event is it? In this case, it is page.content updated because I added page content. And there is entity, which is a page, and this is the page ID that I can use then to do whatever other actions I want in the automation. And then data, this contains the parent space. I'm not sure what this is really. It might be, I don't know. And then the updated blocks, this is the ID of the specific block that was updated, because in Notion, everything is a block. In this case, this page content is a block. You can see there are 6 dots here, and this means this is a block. Also, pages in databases are blocks. Everything is a block in Notion. So now I have this data, and what I can do is, depending on what actions I want to take, maybe I might have a router in here, because based on the event, I want to process data differently. But let's say, for the sake of this example, I want to send a Slack message whenever there is a database schema change. This might be useful to alert people, to make sure that databases don't get changed without intention behind it, which sometimes happens, especially if you use Notion in a large team and there are many people using your databases. There might be accidental property deletions, new properties added without really intentionality behind it. And so you might want to keep things clean and scalable. And so this might be helpful for you to get notified in some way. So for that, we need to make sure that we filter for that specific event and then send a Slack message. So let's look at a test event of that type to see what it looks like in the webhook payload. I'm going to go here. Let's go to organizations 100. And I'm going to change the database schema here by adding a property, for example. This is going to be a text property, which I'm going to name test. Here is what we got in the webhook. The type is database schema updated. And so I might want to copy this. Because I want to subscribe to this kind of event. And let's see what the data looks like here. We got the parent, that means the database ID, and the updated properties. You can see the property name and the action taken. Very nice. So we already do have most of the information that we need in here. We do not have the database name, only the ID. So we might need to retrieve it for this to work properly. So let's say this route, this is going to be database schema route, and we can do if type contains database schema. Then we want to add a Notion module where we are getting the database. And the database ID will be taken from this entity collection here that has type database and then ID. That's the database ID. So we save this, and then we can send a message to Slack. Any text might be something like database schema updated. Then we might have a new line. And we might say database URL. We can map it from the previous module. Then another new line. And in this case, we are going to use some other data here. For example, I can say updated properties, and I can do name here. Action. This will be created. In here, we can also have a new line. Then we do have the author. That's the user ID. So we could have an additional step in here after getting a database to also get the user, so we know exactly who it is that made the change. So we can do that. And one way we can achieve that in Make is by using the native actions. I'm going to add a module, and this will be Notion. Down here, there is list users. So we're going to list all the members, in this case, in the workspace. So be aware that this doesn't detect guests So if you have many guests, you might not get into this. And then we can filter by ID equal to the author's ID. So then when this is found, match author, only that continues, and then we can map here the name of the author. Action that, and then we got new line, author, name, and that's it. So now let's test this out. I'm gonna auto align. Let's save. Let's activate it. So let's run a test. I will change the database schema, for example, by deleting this property. Okay, here's the property deleted. And now we'll check on Slack what the message looks like. And here is the Slack message.